Once again, we return to Porterverse Workbench. This episode will cover how I rebuilt my custom model of Gordon the Big Engine. Gordon was actually the first ever model I ever bought for myself. That's right, he was the first. Well, only in order of purchasing, as my first custom model was Percy, who was my second model I purchased. Funny how that works. But Gordon was there at the very beginning. He was basically day one. And he was just a Hornby Flying Scotsman with a quick repaint, one of the older Tanager models. And this model was understandably not that great, as my inexperience in painting models at the time led to many flaws, being quite obvious. I was even seeing these flaws even before I revealed him initially, and thus repainted his tender and added some more body details later on in the follow-up showcase. After that, I cast Gordon aside on my collection, and years went by and it expanded. And as I got better at modeling, I began to notice more and more flaws in my Gordon model. And recently I decided to slow down expanding the collection and shift my focus to redoing my older models. Henry was the first completed in this new wave of redos, and Gordon was next. Looking at the old model, there were so many paint issues. I used a red paint pen for some parts as a little cheat code, although I didn't paint over with a red acrylic, and the shades were night and day. The paint pen looked almost pink. The tender finish was also really bad. I didn't get a picture of it before I stripped the paint, but the finish was really rough, like kind of rigid almost, like there were ridges on the side from brush strokes. It was really weird. And aside from the painting issues, I also wanted my Gordon model to be an A3, and this was an A1, and so I had to figure out how to change that. Once Henry's redo was finished, I sat down and began work on what would become a much better model of Gordon the Big Engine. Here is how I did it. The first thing I did was take the old model apart and strip the paint from the body shells. I submerged them in a jar of isopropyl alcohol. After a good multi-hour soak, I then scrubbed them with a plastic wire brush and rinsed them off to remove the old paint. Following that was a moderate amount of sanding over the body, mostly to get rid of the noticeable seam lines and to prepare areas for other mods. I then searched for ways to make my Flying Scotsman model, which is Gordon, into an A3, and miraculously I found the perfect, and I mean perfect solution. On Thingiverse, the user known as Ainstor, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, made a conversion kit to convert the old Hornby A1s into A3s, and it was the exact model I had. And the files he made included superheated smokebox plates, the banjo dome, and some other details. This was exactly what I needed. And I printed these smokebox plates myself, and they just worked so well. This was an incredible find. I am so happy I came across this. It is perfect. I glued them into place, and then shifted my focus to painting. First thing I did in terms of painting was lightly spray the model on tender with white primer. Just flat white by Rust-Oleum, nothing too special. I made sure to do very light passes, just enough to make sure the paint would stick. Painting itself was fairly easy. Just a few coats of Alberyl's Cobalt Hue for the main color brushed on by hand. I then painted the black for the smokebox and running board. Following that was red and gold for the lining and window frames respectively. I also made sure to outline more details that I missed initially when painting. So you see, Gordon has a lot more red details and stuff. I also painted the side rods red as well as these frame things. I don't know what they're called, but these things here, they look cool when they're painted. And similar processes were used for the tender. All the lining and numbering was done by hand via toothpicks, and a lot, and I mean a lot, of patience. A good 8,000 touch-ups later, the model was in a state that I was happy with. The last things I did were brush on the clear coat, which is just Mod Podge matte finish, watered down slightly, and glue in the megaphone. I like doing this for my Thomas models as a nod to Tugs, for those wondering. I haven't said it in a while, so I figured I'd make it known now. And just like that, Gordon was done. Let's see him run, shall we? I am so happy with Gordon now. He really feels so refreshed compared to before. I'm just so happy with him. Hopefully once I have my own place and a layout of my own, I'll be able to run him in finally. He isn't waiting the longest out of everyone actually. So I can just tell he is just urging for that. But of course, time will tell when any layout stuff happens. Might be a long ways away from that, but who knows. Thank you all very much for watching, and I will see you all same time next week.